Hello and welcome to Blog of the Net, the football podcast. This is our first show, a trial run, if you will. And today we're going to be talking about Gareth Southgate's England Euro 2020 squad. This podcast is brand new for football enthusiasts like us, who like talking tactics, statistics, players, teams, you name it. Delving deep into all kind of things that we can. In the next few weeks, we're going to be covering the Champions League final, looking at a tactical view, statistical view. Being that time of year, we're going to look at the PFA, Team of the Year, Player of the Year awards, that type of thing. Plus plenty to come from Euro 2020. As I said, today it's all about predicting Gareth Southgate's England squad. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Rich Clark, a full-time football analyst and researcher. What else can I tell you about myself? I'm a Man United fan, football fan for life. Love all things football. I play, I manage, I try and do everything. I love it. So that's me. I have a co-host, and my co-host is sat eagerly awaiting to speak. He's just inside. Hello, Justin.
Hello.
Now, I have described myself there. We hadn't really sort of pre-planned anything to say about you. So how would you describe yourself?
I think I'll keep it a lot shorter and simpler. I mean, it doesn't have to be fancy. Let's go with an Arsenal fanatic and all-round Sunday League legend.
Oh, God. Sunday League legend.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? What? Okay, have we got to that?
I mean, we're talking over a decade of Sunday League football. More goals than you'll ever remember. And I watch Arsenal loads.
Well, yeah, forget the Arsenal thing. The Arsenal thing's fine. Let's face it. More goals than I remember. I mean, I would have played in all of them. Bear in mind, we played together.
Yeah. I suppose if you really want to delve into it, I've probably scored more competitive goals than you've scored in all of your training sessions since you were 4 years old.
I mean, it's a lie and nonsense. This is unreal. I'll tell you something. Bear in mind, I run your team as well, and I have to put up with you and pick you. If you're a Sunday League legend, I reckon I'm a Sunday League god. and by the way, I don't think I'm a Sunday League god. So let's leave it there. Okay. Wow, I don't know really what I expected from that, but yeah. There we go. Okay, as mentioned, today we're focusing on Gareth Southgate's England Euro 2020 squad. This is predictions. This is not our personal squads. I'm sure you'd love to know our personal views, and you'll get them as we go along. But we're going to be taking a deep dive into the players that Gareth's used up to this point, their Premier League form, their statistics, and everything we can to try and get that edge to get our 26-man squad. And remember, it is 26. UEFA made the decision to move it from 23 in the last few weeks, something that Gareth Southgate wasn't actually too hot about. He wanted to keep it to 23, but nonetheless, here we are. So I guess we should start with the goalkeeper, should we?
No, I think we should start with our shirts. I want to hear about your shirt. It's great.
All right, yeah, no, fair shout. We're both in European Championship shirts here. I should say we're recording via audio and video today. So wherever you get your podcasts or online as well, you can watch us via video. The audience number is exactly the same on both. It's 0, but nonetheless, we'll have fun with it. Okay, so for the benefit of those in video, you can see my Euro 2000 shirt. Not a successful tournament for England, but we've kept it European Championships, and I do quite like the shirt. It's quite trendy. You've gone for?
I've gone for a Euro 96 classic Shearer number. Number 9. Number 9 on the front. Yeah, classic.
Looking good. And you've got the official badges on the sleeves and everything.
Oh, yeah, I've got some sleeve badges.
Fair play. And the Euro 96 logo there. Yeah, looking good.
Yeah. And I mean, it's fair to say that retro shirts have come back in and everybody's doing it, but we've been doing it since way before it was cool again.
Way before it was cool. Yeah, that's right. You could say we ushered it in. I mean, that would be a lie, but you could say it if you wanted to or something. Yeah, good segue there onto the shirts. We've dressed up for the occasion. Now let's move on to goalkeepers. Okay, goalkeepers. So, very important position for Southgate. Not somewhere I would say England are hugely flush, but with 26 players to select, is there any danger that Southgate picks 4 goalkeepers here for you, Euro?
I can't see it. I mean, there were certain pundits and experts suggesting he might go with 2. Well, maybe suggesting he should go with 2, not he might. I think 4 is just too many. You're not getting a 4th goalkeeper that's going to get a game. It's just unnecessary and takes away a player that could be useful elsewhere.
Yeah, I agree. Which pundits were saying he might take 2?
I can't remember.
Okay, that's fine. 1, that's insane. 2, you're not allowed anyway. It's against UEFA rules. You have to have a minimum.
You're not
of 3.
allowed.
So, whoever that was, they're talking shit.
It may not be pundits. It may have just been scrolling through Twitter.
Nah, everyone's an armchair pundit now, aren't they? I say that. Look at us. Right. So let's just have a quick reminder of the 3 goalkeepers that made the last squad. So we had 3 World Cup qualifiers in March, and it was Nick Pope, Dean Henderson, and Sam Johnston in that squad, with Jordan Pickford, of course, injured at that time. You're assuming Pickford comes back in?
Yes.
Okay.
He's a massive Southgate favourite.
Yeah, he is a massive Southgate favourite. I've got some numbers here actually on just the number of games that he's played under Southgate. So England have played 12 Nations League games ever, and that's all happened since the 2018 World Cup. Pickford's played all of them. He's played 7 out of the 8 Euro 2020 qualifiers. He didn't play the last one through injury, but he did miss the 3 World Cup qualifiers in March. So, I mean, he's played so many of these last games. He played all at the World Cup, as we know. Yeah, he feels nailed on, doesn't he?
I believe so. I think more because Southgate rewards consistency and loyalty under him. Players that play well for him tend to keep playing for him, even if they're having like a tricky spell at their club. I'm not sure he's the best goalkeeper we have, personally. He's had a bit of an indifferent season, which he has improved second half, but I think Pope is a more solid all-round goalkeeper for me.
Pope, you think, is the best of the bunch?
I think he's the most consistent, yes.
Yeah.
I still say that Pickford has picked it up second half of the season.
Yeah.
Came under pressure from Olsen, and has barely made any mistakes since. But I still think Pope's better.
That's a fair shout. Nick Pope's actually got the highest net expected goals prevented of the goalkeepers. For anyone wondering what that is, that's something that takes a look at every single chance that a goalkeeper faces. So Nick Pope being at Burnley, facing a lot of chances, and then takes away the number of goals actually conceded. So I guess the best way to explain that is if he faced a penalty, it's about an 80% chance of it being scored, 0.8 expected goals. And if he conceded it, you would remove 1 from it. If he didn't concede it, you remove 0 from it because he's done really well to save a penalty. Whereas someone who lets in a chance from way, way out that's worth 0.1 XG and it goes in, you're removing a goal from that tally. 0.1 minus 1, you're in the minuses, essentially. So tallied across the season, after that big explanation, Nick Pope's 4.9 net XG prevented. So basically he's conceded 5 fewer goals than he should have done, is what that's saying. Sam Johnston from West Brom, 3.6, so just over 3. Dean Henderson, 1.6, not bad from 10, 11 starts, whatever it is for him. Pickford, 0.3, which obviously goes to your point about a bit of an indifferent season. Aaron Ramsdale I've put in there as well, uncapped, but also 0.3. And he's shipped a lot of goals. So that's interesting. I think Pope is an above average shot stopper. I think the eye test will tell you that. And looking at that, pretty good numbers. But you think Pickford will start?
Yeah, I think Southgate is generally pretty loyal. And I think goalkeeper, you want to have someone that's pretty stable, and he's been there throughout. I don't see that changing
No, I don't.
for Southgate.
On that basis, then, who joins him? Nick Pope,
Well,
clearly.
I think Pope definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I think you're taking Henderson for a couple of reasons. One, he's really good. Two, looks like he might be making that Man United shirt his own now. And if that's the case, he could well be looking at him as a future number one for a long period of time if he really establishes himself. And he's just better than Ramsdale and Johnston, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts are.
I think Sam Johnston's a good goalkeeper, actually. I think if he was at a better club than West Brom, he might have shone a bit more. But I think a lot of people have identified him being probably their best player this season. Aaron Ramsdale's just not a good goalkeeper. That's the way I see it. I don't think he's very good. But can you think of someone that should be fifth on that list if it's not Ramsdale? I mean, we're really struggling.
Yeah. Can Martinez play for England? Was that a thing?
Was it? I don't know, actually.
I think it was a thing, and I think
well, then
he got
put him in
capped.
goal. He's number one. He's been good.
I think we're really scraping around looking for another good English goalkeeper at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, no arguments from me. It's Jordan Pickford, Nick Pope, and Dean Henderson, and that's an area I'm pretty confident on as well.
And you agree Pickford will start?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Right, let's move swiftly on to defenders. So first of all, let's take you through the defenders that were in the March squad. There are some injured at that time, of course, but Walker, Trippier, James, Chilwell, Shaw, Maguire, Stones, Cody and Mings, and Eric Dyer, were the 10 defenders in that 24-man squad in March. So 10 defenders. Are you expecting him to add or simply swap, or perhaps add and remove and get it down to 9, or how do you see this?
I think he will take 10, with a caveat being one might be someone who can play midfield or can play a different role elsewhere in a team who's versatile.
For example?
Well, I think that one is going to be Eric Dyer because he loves him.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Not because he's the best.
Yeah.
I would even go as far as to say he's had a poor season.
So, I suppose the ones that are nailed on: Harry Maguire?
Yes.
John Stones?
Yes.
Carl Walker?
Yes.
Luke Shaw?
Yes.
Ben Chilwell?
Yes. I think that's it.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I think there's one more nailed on, personally, but the fact that you've cut me there suggests you don't. I think Kieran Trippier will definitely go.
I don't even have him on my list of going.
Yeah, why not?
I mean, we've got a staggering amount of very good right backs.
Yes.
So if we go through them, you've got Kyle Walker, who is definitely going. You've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, who I think is probably the most gifted of the lot, and he's in danger really. Mm-hmm. You've got Reece James, who's had a very good season. I think he goes. I think Gareth Southgate likes him. And then you've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka as well, who should really be in the mix. Any other year, he'd be right up there, but I think he misses out. Yeah. Just because of the quality of the other players.
Wan-Bissaka.
And I think Trippier misses out.
Yeah, sorry, go on. You think Trippier misses out?
Yeah, I think he goes with 3 right backs with half an eye on if we want to switch to a back 3 against a better side. Walker can be that third defender because he has done that previously. And then you still have those 2 right backs.
Yeah, I completely agree with your principle. We'll talk about the personnel in just a moment, because the back 3, back 4 thing is so important, because you're not going to select players that don't fit your system. And we've switched between systems. We used a back 3 at the World Cup. After the World Cup, we started using a back four very regularly. In the last 20 games, we've used a back four 13 times and a back three 7 times. However, we then went back to a back three for a long period of time and then only came back to the back four in these March games. So the last 3 games, we've also used a back four. That little period in between, we were into a back three again. He's very much changed it up. And I do think Kyle Walker will step into centre back when needed. I think the other wing back is Kieran Trippier. He's just played for him so many times at wing back. He's played left wing back for him, right wing back for him. He went to the World Cup. It's a bit of a Jordan Pickford situation for me. He's a trusted player for him. He's also at Atletico Madrid. He started every game at right back for them, besides the games where he was suspended over the betting controversy. And they're top of the league. They're on course. He's had a really good season. If I look here, in the last 10 England games, Trippier's been playing at wing back in a back three on 5 of those. And we've only played it 7 times. So, out of 7, he's played 5. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold misses out. We had a squad in March and he didn't take him. The squad in November of 2020, Trent was injured. So it gave Southgate, it was a bit of an and an ah, like would he have, because his form was questionable. In March, he didn't pick him. I just can't see him turning round from playing 3 important World Cup qualifiers in March to now going and saying, yeah, you're back in. I don't know who drops out, because I think Reece James goes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it could well be Trippier, Trent and Kyle Walker.
Yes, it could be a
possibility.
Combination. We're agreed that Kyle Walker's definitely going, and
he has to
so
go.
Therefore, between the others, and we're agreed that the left backs are Chilwell and Shaw.
Yep.
Okay.
I've got a little caveat there later on. We get to that later, though.
Yeah, I can probably imagine where you're going with that, actually, just from the way I've been thinking. I could be wrong. So the other centre-backs, we'll come back to the right-back situation in a moment. We've said Maguire and Stones are nailed on, and we think that Eric Dyer's going.
Yep.
So how many more centre-backs are going?
I think he's taking 2 more.
So that would make up our 10 if you include our right-backs. So that makes sense to me, yeah.
Yeah, I think Dyer has... he's got versatility, so I don't think he's necessarily going in as just a centre-back. And the 2 more, I think, are probably Mings and Cody.
Yeah, I agree. For what it's worth.
For me, I don't like Mings. I'm not a big fan of him. Generally, I find him clumsy at times. I find him out of position at times. I think he's okay.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I don't actually rate him very highly. I think it's a bit of a problem that is 3rd or 4th, potentially 5th with Dyer, I guess. But choice centre back. A lot of things have got to happen maybe for him to play, but you're still in a squad, and yeah, I'm not a big fan. He's aggressive, but I think that's one of the things that's going for him. That's not always a good thing. He can be overly rash and, yeah, as you say, out of position, sometimes switches off. Connor Cody's a good player. I'm not sure him and Wolves have had a great season. He's been okay, to be fair, but I do like him as a player.
I would say, the one thing I would say about him and why I do think he fits, Wolves have played a back 3. They've changed it up a little bit this season. They've played a back 3 very successfully for a long time. He was a very important part of that, and obviously can play in that system very well. He's also, a leader in that dressing room as well. So he should be a good influence on the squad.
I agree completely. And on the back 3 thing, it's funny that we were talking about it internationally, but of the players the players that we've been talking about that may get in the squad, I should say, Connor Cody, 22 games in the back 3 this season, 12 in a back 4. So Wolves have switched up. These are league games only. Kieran Trippier, 13 in a back four, 12 in a back three. Reece James, 11 and 11. Ben Chilwell, 16 in a back four, 8 in a back three. The rest, largely, have barely played in a back three for their clubs. Not a huge thing, but the one who's played the most, 25 games in a back three, 8 in a back four, is just another name I've picked out, uncapped, but Ben White at Brighton. They are used to playing a back three, and he is used to playing it out from the back. I really rate him. Do you think he's got any chance?
I don't think he's got any chance. I really rate him too. And I would actually be taking him for a few reasons. I think he's very good. He's 23, so he's young. He's going to improve. And he plays for a club in Brighton who they might be down near the bottom, but they do play football the right way. They do like to dominate possession from the back. And I think he would fit in to what Southgate is trying to do really well as a player. He also had a very good season at Leeds under a very demanding manager. You know, we all know how demanding it is there. So I think he would fit very well, but I don't think he will get that look in.
No, I'm slightly surprised he hasn't. I know that things have been interrupted. Friendlies were cancelled, they were moot, and all the rest of it in the last year. I am slightly surprised he hasn't had a look at him this season, in either in November or March, because I do think he's better than Tyrone Mings, but I think it's too late. I think that one has sailed. So no.
How about Michael Keane?
Yeah, Michael Keane's got a chance. We should talk about him. He's played 5 of the 8 Euro 2020 qualifiers. He started 5 of them. So it's quite a lot. He didn't play any of the 3 games recently in March, and he wasn't involved in the Nations League picture at all. But he has had a look in, and he has been in several squads. To me, it would make more sense if he went over Mings, but I'm kind of looking at that March squad and thinking it does pay to look at it and take it seriously.
I think if you look at our squad as a whole, I'm talking all positions here, centre-back is where we have the least depth. If we get an injury to Maguire or Stones, I think we're in big trouble.
Yeah, I agree.
Whichever way you look at it, whoever comes in, the quality downgrade is quite big.
Yeah, it's enormous. I agree. So we're happy, though, that Maguire, Stones, Cody, Mings and Dyer?
I mean, I wouldn't say happy, but I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I could have worded that differently. Are you happy that that's what's going to happen?
I'm not going to go back to what I just said a minute ago.
No,
that's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. Maybe Michael Keane. I think Joe Gomez would have been there, but it's a race against time, and it's not going to happen, is it?
I don't see how you throw him in after a year out. No football. He's not exactly nailed on anyway. I just don't see it.
No, okay. I agree with you. So that's centre back. Ben Chilwell, Luke Shaw, Carl Walker, Reece James, and I'm sticking with Trippier. I feel really strongly about this. You sticking with Trent?
We have to agree?
No, I suppose not. No, I don't think we have to agree.
Trent is so gifted. He's such a wonderful player. He hasn't had the best season, but he has actually picked it up since that squad.
Yeah, he has. I'd take him. If this was my decision, I would take him without any shadow of a doubt. I just don't think he's going.
Why would James go over him? If you're so adamant about Trippier.
Yep, fine. Reece James has had a really good season. Chelsea have performed superbly in the last few months. They're in the Champions League final. It's a really good level to be playing at. He was in the last squad. I think that is important. And he has used him in the last year, 18 months. I think he will prefer him. I think he thinks that he's more defensively reliable, and that if you're going to go with a wing back, he could be your understudy, if not your first choice. It isn't what I would do. I'm championing for what I think Reece James is good at, because I do. I really rate him. I think that's how I view Southgate's thoughts on this.
It's a bit of an embarrassment of riches at right back.
It really is. No, it really, really is. When you talk about the depth, going fourth or fifth at goalkeeper, and then at centre back, as you mentioned, yeah. And then there's
Is
this
anyone
at
else in
right
the mix at left back? Who have we got at left back?
back. Not really. Ryan Bertrand.
Yeah.
And then after that, bear in mind Trippier's been used at left back, so that's sort of blocked a few players. And then I don't know, I'll call it now anyway. But you mentioned Bukayo Saka. Was he in your sort of thoughts as maybe doing a job somewhere?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think he could be he could be at left wing back if it was. So we can maybe talk about him because he's maybe going to come into our midfield plans. Well, not maybe, he is.
But for Southgate, there aren't really any decisions to tough decisions at left back like there are at right back.
No, there really aren't. All right, so we've got one difference, and that's Trippier versus Alexander-Arnold. But besides that, we've picked 13 of our 26. Up next, it's midfielders. Right, it's midfielder time, a position where we are blessed with quality. There are some decisions to make. Let's take you through very quickly those players that were in the midfield from the March squad, and that was Declan Rice, Calvin Phillips, James Ward-Prowse, Jude Bellingham, Mason Mount, Jesse Lingard, Phil Foden. Worth pointing out that Grealish, Henderson and Saka were all injured. And then some other names for us to think about. James Maddison, Callum Hudson-Odoi, maybe Harry Winks, of players that have been used by Southgate in the last 12 to 18 months. But nobody else is jumping out to me, and nobody else has been used by him in a squad during that period. What are your thoughts?
I think we can. Should we go with the safe ones?
Sure.
Let's tick the safe ones off. I think it's fair to say Rice. He's definitely going.
Yes.
Mason Mount.
Yes.
He's had a fantastic season. He's in wonderful form. He's performed for Southgate.
Do you remember when
Phil
it was sort of one of those things where people didn't think he was very good? It became this weird.
Yeah, I was.
People accepted he's good now. Oh, okay, all right, fine, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I was sending around all of him being Frank Lampard's son funnies when Frank Lampard got sacked. It just turns out he's really good at football. Yeah,
he is good at football. Although on the sending round the funnies, you do like to just share whatever shit meme it is. It's not really important whether it's true or not, is it? So, I agree. So Rice and Mount. Who else?
Phil Foden.
Yeah, Phil Foden's nailed on.
I think that's about it.
You could be right. There's a decision to be made with everyone else. I guess the first name we should approach on that is Jordan Henderson.
Yes.
You agreed that he's nailed on as long as he's fit.
Yes, it depends to which degree he's fit. He hasn't played, I think, since February.
Yeah.
He's been out for a long time. He's still not even making squads for Liverpool.
Yeah.
I think if he is fit, I think you take him because he's a positive influence anyway in the dressing room. We have got quite a young squad comparatively, and I think you do need some wise old heads, and he's one of them.
I think with the 26-man squad this time, there are one or two that you can actually allow and it not be too much of a risk. Gary Neville said on Monday Night Football recently that England have tried to cheat this a few times. They've taken a few injured players down the years and it's never really worked. It's not something that we should be looking to do. We don't know the status of Harry Maguire either yet. We think it's short term. We hope it's short term. You don't want too many of these. But I do think Maguire and Henderson would be two that I would, if both were touch and go, I'd take both. But the details of that are difficult with Henderson. I think, given that we think that he is nailed on if fit, shall we agree that he's included, and maybe we can pick some alternates at the end that maybe come in if players are dropping out?
Yeah, let's go with Henderson being in. I think more likely to be in
Yeah.
than not.
Yes, and certainly on merit, he would be picked if fit. So that gives us 4: Rice, Mount, Foden, and Henderson. So we've got 13 from the rest. So 13 left. So how many do you think are forwards and how many do you think are midfielders? How many are we holding back here?
I'm going 5 forwards.
Okay. You done the maths?
Have I done the maths? That gives us 8, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, yeah. So who are the other 4 for you right now?
Right now, James Ward-Prowse.
Yes.
I think he's had a fantastic season. I don't think you can overlook his all-round set-piece ability, both from crossing positions and direct free kicks. I know we have got a few: Trippier, Trent's going, Grealish. You've got a few that can whip a ball in, but I think he's probably the best. Then Jack Grealish, I think he is another one that's been injured, but I think he's coming back to fitness now. I think he has to go. I think he's like a generational talent, like a Paul Gascoigne, a Glenn Hoddle, someone who can just unlock a game with pure ability in a way that nobody else in our team can. So I think you have to take him. And then I think you've got one of Saka, Lingard or Maddison. There's one more at the end. I think you take Saka over Maddison and Lingard. Maddison's had a good season. Not a great season, he's had a good season. He's a good player. But I think you've got some similar players to him. And I think Saka is... I watch him very closely as an Arsenal fan. And he's been our best player in a gloomy season most weeks. He's our bright spark. And it doesn't matter where you play him. You can play him on the wing. You can play him in that number 10. You can play him at left back. Wherever you play him, he's in our top 2 or 3 players every game.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think he goes. Lingard might, only for 2 reasons. He's been in a wonderful hot streak second half of the season. And he's another one who has done it previously for Southgate. Someone who Southgate probably does trust. So he might sneak in. Now the wild card, and I think you need another more defensively minded or box-to-box sort of midfielder. That would be Jude Bellingham. I think you want to give him tournament experience. He's playing every week at a very high level. And the few times I've seen him play, I've been really impressed. I think he's a great talent. So I think you want him in there to gain experience. And you never know, you may be throwing him in there and he just sets the tournament alight.
Yeah, I agree on Jude Bellingham every time I watch him, and the Bundesliga for me is not a lot, but he does impress me. James Ward-Prowse, I think, has become a player that Southgate likes. He's had a very good season, although he's. I always felt he was a bit lucky with the number of goals he scored, and I actually dragged up his expected goals and assists. So he's got 14 goals plus assists this season, a combination of the two. His expected is 8.1, so he's out kicking that by 6 goals. So he maybe should have about 4 goals, 4 assists, but he's got many, many more. However, he's got an excellent set-piece delivery, and someone's got to say it, he takes penalties and it might go to a shootout. But no, he's a very steady player in the centre of midfield. He started to control games with Southampton. I feel like he's always been a player with talent that's sort of been on the periphery of games sometimes. But I think he's more rounded. The name I have to mention, he played in those March games. He was in that squad. Is Calvin Phillips of Leeds. I think he's got a really
Yes.
strong chance.
I think he only goes if Henderson doesn't.
You don't think that Henderson and Rice could play in the same team and you need a backup there?
Jude Bellingham or James Ward-Prowse coming in next to
Ward-Prowse.
one of them.
Okay.
I don't think Ward-Prowse is playing in the more prominent attacking positions because of some of the other talent we have in those areas. You know, your Mounts, your Fodens, your Grealishes. So I think if you're taking James Ward-Prowse, he's playing in a more central reserved role rather than being pushed forward.
So Calvin Phillips started all 3 games in the of those World Cup qualifiers.
Played very
Jude
well.
Bellingham just won. Why do you think Bellingham will go over Phillips?
I think he's more talented in terms of his potential. And I think, you know, we're always talking about giving players tournament experience who you think are going to be developing. That doesn't always work out, but I think that's a strong reason why you would take Jude Bellingham.
Yeah.
And if he is more talented and you throw him in, he could well set the tournament alight.
I don't see him really playing if he did go, but I'm really torn as to whether he goes because I'd like him to. It'd be nice, and I think it's a good opportunity. But
I think Henderson not being fully fit, you're taking him off a little bit earlier and you're throwing him on with Bellingham on, with his enthusiasm and those lovely long legs of his, and just letting him have a go.
good compliment there. Enjoyed that. So, Jack Grealish, if fit, he must go. He's just so capable. And the last 12 to 18 months has just really shone for Villa. And he, after a little while of being left out of England squads, he gave him his chance. And he did well in those games back in November for England. He looked one of England's best players. Saka, I agree with you from his performances at Arsenal. He's versatile, another young player that can play in a number of different positions. I think he'll go. And I think James Ward-Prowse, Jude Bellingham and Calvin Phillips, it's 2 from 3.
Is
where do you stand?
Out? Is Maddison out for you?
That was going to be my next question to you. Yeah, I don't think James Maddison goes. I think he's had too much of a stop-start season with injuries. He's been rotated. He's been used for England. It's not been he's not been a huge favourite or anything. He's only got 1 cap. One
He got
England
one
cap.
cap.
So he's not been a huge favourite or anything. I don't think he goes.
Yeah, I don't. And as I touched on before, I just think we've got better players in the position he wants to play. I think we've got several better players in the position he wants to play in.
I think with a good run, James Maddison can be in that conversation. Okay, so Rice, Mount, Foden, Henderson, Grealish, Saka, James
Please.
Ward-Prowse. That's 7. You're having Bellingham
I'm having Bellingham.
as your 8th. Did you say 8 or 9? Here,
8.
8. So that's
8
your 8th.
with the caveat of Dyer,
Sure thing.
which is probably another reason why you can Phillips.
Yeah, I'd take your point on that. I think Phillips will go.
At Bellingham's expense?
I don't want to say that, but yeah, I think possibly. I think quite possibly. I'll commit to that for now.
See how we go.
Yeah. So that leaves 5 forwards, and we'll cover that next. Right, let's look at the top end of the pitch and talk about the forwards. Do you think Harry Kane will go to this tournament?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. I'd probably take him. Yeah.
He might snap his ankle between now and then.
Well, let's not say that, shall we? 21 goals and 13 assists from Harry Kane so far this season. We're at the very end now, but blimey, it's good numbers. I mean, if he goes down, we're in big trouble, right?
Yes, I think you change the whole system if he goes down.
I agree. I think we're looking at a back three, a false nine potentially. Yeah, I think it's a different ball game. So we've got Harry Kane, Raheem Sterling, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and Ollie Watkins were the 4 forwards that were in the last squad in March. There were a few that were either not selected or injured. Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Tammy Abraham, Mason Greenwood, Danny Ings, Callum Wilson, and Patrick Bamford. I believe Bamford is the only one of those that is uncapped and not been looked at by Southgate before, but worth a mention. And the rest all certainly have been in those plans. So Sterling goes.
I think you've got 3 here that are definitely going.
Go on, and the third one is
Rashford.
Fine. Okay. Kane, Sterling, and Rashford. That's an easy one. So 2 more.
Yep. I would have said Sancho, definitely, without hesitation. But he got dropped from the last squad. I believe. Was he injured? He might have been injured, actually.
I thought he was injured, but I could be wrong.
Anyway, we can move on. I think he goes anyway. I think he goes. I don't watch him loads, but he's still he's got good numbers. I've looked at his numbers. He's got 8 goals and 9 assists. He plays nearly every week for a good Borussia Dortmund side. And I think he's been in a number of squads and he'll go. I think you've only got one decision to make, and that's your 5th choice. And that, personally, I think it comes down to 3 players that should be in that conversation, and I think it should be Watkins, Calvert-Lewin, and Patrick Bamford. Bamford will miss out, but he's had a really good season. He works very, very hard. We've talked about Leeds. They're a very demanding team to play for, especially up top on your own. So I think he's unlucky to not have even got a look, to be honest. So then I think it's a straight fight between Watkins and Calvert-Lewin. I prefer Watkins. I prefer his energy. I prefer his hard work. I think he's probably a better finisher. But ultimately, I think Calvert-Lewin will go because he offers that physical presence that I don't think anybody else can other than Kane.
Yeah, I think we need another forward who is comfortable playing centrally, that if Harry Kane went down and we were looking to replicate that, and I agree with what you said, I think the system changes, but if we were, that you want a player that can do that. You mentioned, funny enough, Calvert-Lewin not being as good a finisher as Watkins. So Calvert-Lewin's got 16 goals this season to Watkins' 13. But interestingly, of Watkins' 13 goals, he's got 14.8 expected goals. So a suggestion that he's not finishing chances at the rate that perhaps he should be. Calvert-Lewin, meanwhile, 14.2 expected goals to his 16 actual. So there's not loads in it, but slightly down, which suggests he's either getting very lucky or he's an above average finisher. It's a small sample size, especially as someone who's never scored this many goals in a season before. I think overall I agree with you on Watkins. I think Calvert-Lewin's had a brilliant season. And that one, I mean, it's nearly probably a coin flip. I would probably just about give it to Calvert-Lewin if I was trying to guess what Southgate was going to do, but I'm not sure. Where do you see Mason Greenwood in this, or not at all?
I don't believe he's playing enough, and I don't think he's being consistent enough. I mean, you'll know him better than I. You probably watch him closer than I. But I don't feel like he's had a season like Saka has for Arsenal, where he's playing every week and he's always in the conversation about being their best player every week.
Mm-hmm. Well, I watch everyone more closely than you, but that's okay. No, he's been rotated, and of course we can't forget the incident. Iceland aren't in England's group, are they? So Mason won't be too bothered about. You can't forget that incident though that he had, and I know Phil Foden was there, but Phil Foden's playing out of his skin, getting in the Man City team and absolutely tearing it up. So completely different thing for me. I agree. I don't think Greenwood goes. Bamford's an interesting one. If this was, it's funny how things go in cycles. We talked about what quality we have in this position, that position, and maybe not central strikers, but just good forwards who are versatile. We've named obviously a few. I think if this was 10 years ago, Bamford's nailed on. He's maybe behind Rooney to sort of start. It's but unfortunately there are some good options, and I don't see him being called up having been uncapped.
Watkins and Calvert-Lewin have had very similar seasons.
Yes.
So it's really hard. It's really hard, and I think Southgate has made his preference clear in his last squad, because I think they were all vying to be selected, and him not being selected in that squad, I think, puts the nail in that coffin, because I don't think he could do anything now that will change his mind.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was his opportunity. He made that decision, and it's pretty clear to me. You've got to look at the patterns of his other selections and who he trusts. So I agree. So we're happy with Kane, Rashford, Sancho, Sterling.
Do you think Sancho is really safe?
Well, the way you were talking, you seem to think he'll go, and I think he will go. So there's 4, and you think the 5th one is?
For me, or for Southgate?
Southgate. What do you think Southgate will do?
Calvert. He's going for big bad Calvert.
Yeah, I agree with you. You would do what? What would you do?
I'll take Watkins. Not because he's a better finisher, because my good friend told me he's not. I just prefer him.
Is that me? Just a shrug. All right, fine. Okay, there's our 5 forwards, which don't know if you've been keeping count, but that completes our squad. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but we have Jordan Pickford, Nick Pope and Dean Henderson. We have Carl Walker, Reece James, and then a toss-up between Trent Alexander-Arnold and Kieran Trippier between ourselves. But we're agreed on Luke Shaw and Ben Chilwell, along with Harry Maguire, John Stones, Connor Cody, Tyrone Mings and Eric Dyer. In midfield, we've agreed on Rice, Mount, Foden, Henderson, Ward-Prowse, Grealish, Saka, and you've said Bellingham. I think I'm just about going for Calvin Phillips. So there's our other disagreement. And we've agreed on our 5 forwards, which are Harry Kane, Raheem Sterling, Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So 2 discrepancies between us. We're agreed on 24 of the 26, which is very nice, isn't it? That's not bad going. Yeah. I think everyone's going to have their own views on where it all goes. So
We're in Southgate's mind though, not in our own. There'd be loads more disagreements.
I'd like to hope so. Where do you? So you said you like the squad. Let's just conclude with some thoughts on how you think England will do.
So I think we will probably. It's quite interesting you asked that question. We are pre-tournament favourites with the bookies, which we seem to always be there or thereabouts. But this time we're full-on favourites, and I don't think that's justified. I think we do quite well. We'll get through the group. We'll get through the last 16. I think we'll win the group. We'll come through the last 16. And then when we come up against real quality opposition in the quarters or the semis, we will come up a bit short.
Do you know the permutations if we win the group, etc.? I can tell you that if we did win our group, we'd face Germany, France or Portugal in the last 16. We're paired with that group, basically. Oof. And it's us as top v runners-up in that group. And it's going to be one of those three. Hungary is the other side in that group. You could say they'll be starved of possession in that group.
Do you remember what I said about?
He's just ignoring that. He's not even acknowledging it.
No, well, yeah. I if we win, I think we win the group. So you remember what I said about us making the quarters or the semis? We're going out in the last 16.
Well, yeah. When you look at it like that, I mean, Croatia's been our first game. That'll have a big bearing on who actually does. If
we might have to,
if we were the runners up in our group, we would say that again.
We might have to throw the Czech game.
Well, if we were the runners up in our group, we'd face Sweden or Poland likely in the last 16. It wouldn't be at Wembley, that one. We'd have to go to Copenhagen, so that'd be an extra game that we wouldn't get at Wembley. If we finish third in the group, remember this awful format that they started in 2016. So you can finish third and still go through if you're one of the best third place teams. We'd likely get Spain, so that wouldn't be it'd be paired with another difficult group there. Sweden, if they somehow manage to scrape a win in that group, but winning the group doesn't look like too hot of a decision. But
it's loaded.
It is pretty loaded. It's going to be tough, but. If you had to say it now, where do you think England will end up?
Based on that, we win the group and go out last 16.
That is a sorry state of affairs.
I know, that's upsetting, isn't it?
The
only thing you can say is, so our World Cup run was pretty blessed. That was a pretty blessed run. But it doesn't look like we're getting anything like that this time round.
No, we're not. It really opened up based on a couple of the results plus the actual path that we were destined to be on. That really opened up, and this one does not. I'll say that we get to the quarterfinals because we probably won't win the group anyway. Somehow, Croatia will turn us over and. We'll get through the last 16 game, but go out then. Quarterfinals just feels par as well. It just feels more as an overall prediction without assessing the pathway. It just feels par for England.
I think going out in the semi-final at Wembley is more fitting.
Oh God, I don't think I could bear it actually.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
Another summer of hurt. I think that just about concludes it, does it not?
Yep. Good run through.
There is our squad, as predicted. We're expecting that to come out the day after the Premier League season finishes. Gareth may leave it a little bit longer, but it is going to be imminent. So I guess all that leaves us to do is say thank you very much for listening and or watching, if indeed you still are. You can head over to Twitter and follow us at blogofthenet_. You can access our website from there. There'll be a full rundown of all the stats from today. You can access more to do with this show. Plenty of statistics and other articles and loads of things to delve into on there. And if you like this show, subscribe to us and tell a friend. It's good to share things. Next time, we'll be doing our PFA team and player of the year predictions. We need to get those in time before those are announced. I think that's early June. So we'll look forward to that. Until then, Justin, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You should see my PFA list. It is massive.
Massive?
Oh.
That's the only massive thing that's going for you, I do so believe. Cheap joke. Cheap! He's been Justin Side. I've been Rich Clark. Adios. Thank you very much.
Thank you.